0547 in Kuwait, a US Army Patriot crew at Ali Al Salem Air Base is walking under the launcher line on a routine shift change when the alarm catches them mid-stride. 200 miles across the Gulf, IRGC crews fired 90 seconds ago. 8 Qiam-1 ballistic missiles are already past the top of their arc, falling toward the base at Mach 5. Inside, the tactical officer already has 8 tracks stacked in 2 columns of 4, arcing down out of the stratosphere. The battle drill runs itself. Engage authority confirmed. Launchers assigned. And the first engagement orders go out before most of the base knows the klaxon is real. Across the ramp, the rest of Ali Al Salem catches up in pieces. Crew chiefs drop tow bars and sprint for hardened shelters. A fuel truck freezes in the middle of a taxiway, engine still running. 4,000 Americans go from a Tuesday to a bunker in under a minute. Every one of them is now betting on a handful of soldiers in one air-conditioned steel box. Inside that box, the crew gets one lucky break. A ballistic missile is honest. The moment a Qiam's motor burns out, physics locks its path. No steering, no second thoughts, a thrown ball that told you where it lands the instant it left the hand. Within seconds of acquisition, the radar computed all 8 impact points, and everyone sits inside the fence line. The dishonest part is the clock. That commitment buys the warhead Mach 5 on the way down. It hands the crew a window measured in single-digit minutes to catch 8 falling objects barehanded. Launcher 1 reports ready. 2 follows. 3 is already elevated, canisters tilted like loaded revolvers, and the radar face stays locked north. That flat, tilted plate on the trailer you see here is the AN-MPQ-65, and it doesn't spin like an airport radar. It stares into one sector and steers its beam electronically, thousands of times a second, searching, tracking, and guiding interceptors off the same face. A chess master playing 30 boards at once. The boards were never the limit. The clock is. Every track held and every interceptor guided takes a slice of the same finite beam time. Right now, all of it points north. Everything behind that face is running on faith. The first firing solution goes green. PAC-3 interceptors scream out of their canisters on pillars of white fire, pitch over, and tear north. Seconds later, the lead Qiam erupts over the coastline. A smear of glowing fragments keeps traveling on the warhead's old course, shedding pieces, going nowhere that matters anymore. A ragged cheer carries through the shelter walls. No warhead did that. The PAC-3 missile segment enhancement defeats a ballistic missile by hitting it. 12 to a launcher, about $4 million a round, steered by an active Ka-band radar seeker in its nose. A tiny radar of its own that shouts into the dark and steers toward whatever comes back. The dual-pulse motor banks its second burn for the endgame. And a belt of tiny attitude control rockets fires in bursts to drag the airframe onto the intercept line. A direct collision at closing speeds above Mach 8. At that closure, a fragmentation cloud might only shred fins and leave a live warhead falling on the base anyway, and a proximity fuse gets microseconds to make that call. A direct hit removes the question. Swap the bullet with the bullet, and there's nothing left to fuse. The missile on the receiving end is a finless, liquid-fueled Iranian design fired off a road mobile erector. Its 1,650-pound warhead rides a New York to Washington shot that lasts barely 5.5 minutes from end to end. This one never gets to finish. One by one, the trailing tracks wink out over the coast. 4 down. 5. The tactical control officer watches the columns thin and doesn't relax an inch. The picture's going too well. Gulf duty taught him what that usually costs. Then the scope grows a second problem. Low contacts southeast, hugging the water, in the exact quadrant the staring radar is not watching. A second fire unit swings onto them. A pair of interceptors rips off the rails at 4.2 seconds apart, and the first contact cartwheels into the Gulf in a spray of burning fiberglass. Shahed 136s, one-way attack drones with a moped engine and 90 pounds of explosive in the nose, crawling at 115 miles an hour on satellite fixes. The rounds knocking them down are PAC-2 GEM-Ts, the older Patriot missile. A fragmentation warhead in pairs, so the second corrects whatever the first misses. A GEM-T doesn't think for itself. The ground radar paints the target, the missile relays the echo back down, and the control station flies it by uplink, track via missile, the Army calls it. FPV drone racing, at Mach 4, with a 200-pound warhead strapped to the racer. Inside the control station, the tactical officer reads the arrival times and feels the floor tilt. 4 drones that slow to arrive at this exact minute Somebody pushed them off their rails 3 hours ago, long before the first Qiam ever fired. Time to crest the horizon from the southeast in the same 60 seconds the missiles fell from the north. The planner behind this knew which way the American radar faces. He bought his second Axis cheap, $50,000 drones, bass boat money, sent to tax million-dollar defenses at the only moment taxing them matters. The arithmetic is the ambush. GEM-T pairs eat guidance channels. The launcher farm holds an infinite stack of PAC-3s, and Iran engineered the attack to overload both for exactly 1 minute. 9 checkout lanes, a holiday crowd pouring in at once, no register broke. The line just got longer than the minute allowed. The 2 trailing Qiams arrive when every hand is full. 1 interceptor connects, 1 doesn't. The geometry spoiled by a launch delayed 3 seconds while the channel it needed finished guiding a GEM-T onto a drone. The tactical control officer follows the final track across the last defended mile with nothing left in the air to meet it. No button in the station buys those 3 seconds back. At 05:51, the 8th Qiam slams into a maintenance hangar on the ramp. The fireball rolls the roof inward around a crater where a workbench used to be. 1 hangar. That's all Iran bought this morning, and it threw that punch at the wrong giant. At the mouth of the Gulf, the world tankers sit idle behind a blockade run off an island most Americans have never heard of. Now it's personal. Iran bet 1 hangar it would buy a trade of jabs. It just woke the one country that doesn't throw them back. It throws everything. The target list already had 1 line, a tunnel no ordinary bomb can reach, and a bomb built for nothing else. Just after noon, 500 miles southeast of the smoking hangar, the answer screams off the tarmac. F-15E Strike Eagles tear low toward Greater Tumba Island out over the water that hasn't carried a tanker since the Qadir anti-ship missile off this island buried a 340-pound warhead in a supertanker's hull, and every war risk insurance desk in London pulled the strait's coverage inside a business day. 3 weeks that island has choked the world's oil. It has 1 afternoon left. The Strike Eagles pass within sight of the anchorage on the run north. More than 40 tankers lie there in rows. Weeks of the world's oil sitting still because one island says so. Deck crews look up from empty water to watch fast movers go by low. They count the shapes under the wings and start recalculating when they get to sail. An hour and a half later, the island gives them their first hard number. At 13:30, the strike opens. The door kickers go in first. Strike Eagles hauling standard 2,000-pound GPU-31 JDAMs, satellite-guided bombs that turn coordinates into impacts, tasked with stripping the island's outer defenses. Coastal gun positions at the port's air search radar start disappearing in dirty brown blooms, 1 drop at a time. Concussions roll across the water like a slow drum line. A wrecking crew clearing the porch before the locksmith arrives. 5 minutes behind them, the lead vault jet rolls in from the south at 35,000 feet. The backseater confirms the aim point one last time. The pilot holds wings level through the release queue, and a single store drops off the center line. 30 seconds of guided fall. Tail fins trimming the whole way down, a shape too small to see from the cockpit by the time it arrives. The hillside above the tunnel entrance doesn't bloom. It caves in like a stepped-on can. That was the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator, and this afternoon is its combat debut. Under the JDAM tail kit sits a BLU-138 warhead. It weighs 4,422 pounds, and only 1,067 of those pounds are explosive. The same PBXN-109 and AFX-757 mixed packed inside the 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator. Everything else is hardened casing. Penetration comes down to mass behind each square inch of the nose and the speed it arrives. Here, at about 1,100 feet per second, near vertical. A framing nail and a pushpin driven by one hammer don't reach the same depth. Each Strike Eagle carries exactly 1, clamped to its belly like a railroad spike under a race car. So where is the biggest hammer? The massive ordnance penetrator digs deeper than anything in the American inventory, but only the B-2 carries it. 2 per jet, and all 19 B-2s live at Whitman Air Force Base, Missouri. A 30-plus hour round trip from this island. That's 1 wave per day, with every aim point frozen a full day before impact. A siege engine you aimed yesterday. The GBU-72 hangs on a fighter already in theater, minutes from a tanker. Hit, assess, shift, hit again. Iran hardened this island against America's biggest bomb. America brought 24 of the right bomb instead. By 1345, the operation is a machine. Elements crossing the coast, dropping, clearing south to KC-46 Pegasus holding 80 miles offshore with the boom extended. Nobody orbits. Everybody cycles. The tanker sets the tempo. A Strike Eagle at military power burns gas at a rate that buys one pass and no loiter. Each jet takes 10,000 pounds off the boom, runs in at 480 knots, drops, and clears. After every impact, dust and flying debris need 2 to 3 minutes to settle before the next crew can see the target. So a fresh element pushes in over the beach every 7.5 minutes. 12 two-ship elements against roughly 20 hardened aim points. 90 minutes over the island, 1330 to 1500. An assembly line where the factory is the sky. There's no compressing it either, because those 90 minutes are precisely how long the Islanders' defenders get to shoot back, which is why the door kickers went first. Element 3 shows what the math feels like. 2 F-15s top off and push northwest at 35,000 feet. The island is growing from a smudge under the nose into a shape with smoke on it. The backseaters run the checklist in shorthand. Coordinates, fuse setting, release cue. Wings level. 2 stores drop away together, and both jets are banking south with the penetrators still a half minute from the dirt. Behind them, 2 brown geysers stand up out of the ridgeline. One on a portal, one on a ventilation shaft, sealed and sealed. The Wizzos grade both hits in clean air, call it on the way to the tanker, and the next element is already inbound behind them. The bill for the porch cleaning is already rising over the eastern shore. Burning fuel stores and pulverized rock lift a gray-brown sheet across the island, and it thickens by the minute. Nobody on the strike net is thinking about it yet. The afternoon gets to it. The smoke is not the only thing the initial waves left behind. Down among the wrecked gun positions, one Iranian is having a very good war. A radar operator above the port has spent 3 years rehearsing this raid. His coastal surveillance set, an SCR X-270, is still alive because he refuses to shout. The set can transmit at full kilowatts. He keeps it dialed to tens of watts, a whisper instead of a shout. American emission hunting sensors feed on signal strength, and he gives them almost nothing to grab. The price of whispering is a threadbare picture. His fan-shaped beam reads bearing to half a degree and range to 25 kilometers, and nothing else. A flat scope, blind to the altitude entirely. He's memorized the approach geometry American jets prefer. Now they're flying it for him on a schedule he can set his watch by. He feeds bearings, one at a time, to crews hidden behind the ridge and lets the American conveyor bring the targets to him. At 14:02, a missile rips off the island on a thin white smoke trail, and not one radar warning receiver in the formation makes a sound. The call comes from a wingman's eyeball, not from any warning gear. Missile in the air, right side. A GBU-31 element descending through 15,000 feet breaks hard into it. The warhead bursts 200 yards astern, close enough that the wingjet flies out through the smoke of its own near miss. Below it sits the Thunder, Iran's newest short-range air defense system, an upgraded Majid unveiled at the Iqtidar exercise in January 2025, and firing missiles that home in on heat through an infrared imaging seeker. The cockpit stayed silent because it never emitted. Inside the cab, the crew tracked the jet on an electro-optical screen, thermal picture pushed to maximum zoom. The gunner leaned into the display, walking his crosshairs up an invisible line in the sky. A bearing crackled through his headset. Sweat ran down the inside of his collar. The launcher had emitted nothing, and the jets got no warning. Their problem was never stealth, it was the handoff. The bearing from the port came with no altitude, and the thermal camera sees only a few degrees of sky at a time. A spotter who can point at the highway but not at the overpass, while the gunner searches every deck of the interchange and the car goes 90. Each second searching moved the jet another 180 feet. By the time the crosshairs settled and the seeker caught the heat it needed, the only shot left sat at the ragged edge of a missile's reach. A crossing target, with the lead angle growing faster than a rocket motor can pay for it. Good crew, right weapon, wrong dimension. They start displacing with debris still falling. The launch plume marked the spot anyway, and the next JDAM shreds the vehicle short of the tree line. But the port operator fed bearings to 2 launch crews ahead of the raid, and the second one hasn't fired yet. So the strike turns to the only target that ever mattered, with a live launcher somewhere under the spreading haze. The IRGC Navy, the parallel force built for asymmetric war, met American air power on this island with civil engineering, not armor. The tunnel mouth in the central slope is the front door of the proof. Analysts reconstructing years of satellite passes put the magazine under roughly 100 feet of deliberate overburden. Up to 5 slabs of steel-reinforced concrete, each 6 feet thick, poured at 5,000 psi, about twice a highway bridge deck. Every slab rests on 10 to 15 feet of compacted soil. The alternation is the weapon. A penetrator shreds a bite of its speed in every slab it breaks. Each hard-to-soft boundary nudges the cases a few degrees off its axis, so the next slab meets it slightly sideways. An off-axis penetrator bends or tumbles instead of digging. A standard 2,000-pound bunker buster defeats about 6 feet of reinforced concrete in one continuous push. Against this stack, that layer is 1. Its blast soaking into 30 feet of dirt above missiles that never feel it. The opening JDAM waves flatten 14 buildings topside and never touch the rooms below. Under the slabs, the architecture finishes the argument. One central magazine, radial tunnels running out to blast-stored launch exits on separate compass bearings, independent ventilation shafts. Every room has its own way out. No single hit anywhere closes the place. A bank vault dug under a hill with the getaway cars parked inside. And that design is what wrote the American schedule. 20 aim points exist because Iranian engineers built 20 ways for this arsenal to stay alive. The vault designed the conveyor, now taking it apart. And at 1420, the conveyor stops. An inbound element is holding its release, and the whole machine pauses on one backseater's call. Portal 9 took its hit 4 minutes ago. The weapons systems officer in the back seat, the Wizzo, and yes, the Wizzos have made peace with that, is staring into his sniper targeting pod trying to grade it. The pod's infrared eye holds so steady that from 4 miles up, the crosshair sits still on Portal 9 while the jet bucks through turbulence. But the picture is graying out. The island's own destruction is in the way. Fuel fires, pulverized concrete, the sheet of smoke thickening since 1330. Every plume a hot smear across one spectrum he's reading. Fuel states tick down across the formation. Somewhere below, a second Thunder crew reads the pause. Sealed sends everyone home. Reattack sends its own element back over a gun line. Through smoke his own side made. The deal in a 2-seat fighter is simple. The pilot keeps them alive. The Wizzo keeps them employed. Right now, the Wizzo earns his half. A seam opens in the smoke, and the infrared flares white for an instant. The doorway, still breathing heat from inside. He calls reattack. The reattack lands, and Portal 9 folds under a second penetrator, rock cascading down over the opening until nothing of the entrance exists to grade. The count starts moving again. Behind the strike, the KC-46's boom operator has passed more fuel in one afternoon than in his last 3 months of sorties, and the elements keep coming off the tanker on time. 11 sealed. Then 13. At 16, the second Thunder crew takes its one shot through the murk at a departing element. The shot goes wide by 1,000 yards of hopeless geometry, and the launcher eats the next JDAM before it finishes turning. 19. Every entrance folded is a door locked from the outside. One jet, one bomb, one hole. By 1450, a single aim point is left, the central magazine, the deepest room on the island. The weapon assigned to it was dropped thousands of times before it was ever built. Engineers at Elgin flew the GBU-72 inside hydrocodes, physics programs that treat steel and concrete as fluids under millions of pounds of pressure. Every simulated release chewed identical questions. Impact angle within a few degrees of vertical. Case flex at every concrete-to-soil boundary under declaration spikes in the tens of thousands of Gs. Fuse survival through all of it. They ran the enemy's homework until the design settled, then proved it on rocket sleds against instrumented concrete and a live release over the Elgin range in 2021. The men who dug the vault are guessing about the bomb. Nobody at Elgin is guessing about the vault. At 1457, the last element crosses the coast with the whole island smoking beneath it. 19 collapsed entrances and one intact hillside in the middle of all of it. The Wizzo confirms coordinates through a clearing seam. The store tears off the belly, and the jet jumps 5,000 pounds lighter into a hard climbing turn south. Everything now rides on a fuse the size of a coffee can. One layer too early, and the blast never reaches the room. At 1458, the final GBU-72 buries itself through the roof of the central magazine. From 4 miles up, the Wizzo watches the entry point through his pod, a puff of gray. For half a heartbeat, nothing. Then the whole hillside lifts. Inside the tail, the fuse felt the jolt of every layer on the way down. Concrete, soil, concrete again, and held its fire until the resistance vanished into open air, the room. Only then does the charge go, inside a chamber whose own 5-layer roof now works for the bomb. The roof contains the blast and drives it down the radial tunnels toward everything those tunnels connect. The fuse was never counting seconds, it was counting floors. The island keeps erupting for the better part of an hour, and none of it is American ordnance. Stored Noor and Qadir rounds cook off in chains. The last American bomb cost just under $300,000. Every explosion after it was on the house. If you enjoyed this video, watch our video where the B-2 stealth bombers sealed Iran's underground missile caves shut, while F-22s hunted the MiG-29 sent to stop them. Bye for now.